Crazy. And dots everywhere. Okay. Hey, boy.
Find your safe. Everybody not.
Please? No. Hey, Taylor! It's been a minute. We're not finished. She said, hey, hey, Joy. I still got your crackers. Hello to you. Y'all have some heat. Take care. Hey, look at you. Yeah. I had that wedding on, and the wife was so like, it was her first wedding, it was like second. So obviously, I love her. She's very, very well fed. Like, very. And her dad died. Her dad got like all of the money for her wedding. Only time. Yeah, because I did. So we had 3-course lunch for everybody.
I think I remember my day.
My dad was at the wedding party, and so like we had steak every single night. Steak, salmon, chicken. So I had steak. Sometimes like oh my god! Like, I had steak, and I never thought I'd be able to say that. Then we would trade brunch. I've never had better food. I was like, hey, Grace, everybody else look except you. Yes, right. Yeah, no, I was like, I didn't want to wear it because my mom just wears it. She felt like she looked too young, and I was like, Mom, I don't want to wear that. Really, Maryland wear black and white. And I was like, you stand out. And I was really good. I was like, literally, you stand there. Yeah, that's not it. Swear to God.
Your video was static. Yeah, I know. I'm changing it out the last semester. I'm trying to start.
Yeah, I had to do with NFL yet.
Changing it out as we speak.
Hey,
I tried. I can't fix YouTube, but it's glitchy.
because the other girls.
I'm trying to figure out.
Mine are ugly. I think mine are like. Yeah, I'm telling them how to. Right.
I'm hungry.
Right. I used to write it. Oh, yeah. I stopped writing it.
Okay, so I'm yesterday, and I got these things like, they're like, oh, yeah, like 2 weeks, and they forgot to take the little alarm.
I thought you did that 2 weeks ago.
Yeah. And I'm not going back. It's already next time. I'm not going back.
He's got a nice.
I know, I keep it. I'm not going back. Yeah, like, I walk out the thing, like, you know how I have the big thingy that says, nothing beat.
I'm just glad. That's not even 8.
Oh, I grabbed a hammer and the hammer has that running. Yeah.
How was this? 2, 4, 6.
The one that whatever was selling.
What the freak?
I was like, oh, it's a bottle. I think the bags were like. I think. Oh,
See, I wanna get like the hands. I'm just, hey, that's cool, I like that. I like that. Yeah, you could have get that. I don't know, I'm gonna get, this on my shoulder, but my mom said no. Maybe I'm going. Yeah.
I was trying to, my phone last night. I said, honey, I said,
I need the following students to come to the front lobby, actually come to Miss Henson's office. The following students come to Miss Henson's office briefly. Andy Casados, Jesus Noyola, and Ivan Salvador. Please come to Miss Henson's office.
Sorry, Miss Wall.
You're fine.
I was looking for someone, I didn't know where she was.
What's the date? The 8th?
Yeah, today's the 8th.
You're ugly.
She doesn't take me anywhere.
Alright, for those of you who had trouble with the video, I pasted last semester's video in place of it, so
I think I kind of get the look.
hopefully it won't be glitchy now.
If I just.
I forgot.
Yeah, okay, whatever.
Yes, I didn't go to something.
There's a lot of good day homework.
I can't write.
Alright, I think everybody's here.
That's crazy.
I need to draw it.
They so like to you. Yes,
Paul,
yes.
can I have Neil Chicago?
Who?
Chris Neil.
Yes. Chris, is your homework on your desk? Is your homework on your desk? Is your homework on your desk?
Come up here.
Did you do it? Yeah, that's all I need to know.
I wanna check it out.
Alright, if you will, put your homework on your desk. I won't see it today.
You want this? Can I have
You can have it after I go over.
it? We can have it after we go over.
I'm good. I'm gonna exempt it for y'all. Because y'all will just not be there.
No,
Doesn't matter as well.
you're right.
Good.
Yeah.
Good.
A lot of real quiet on Friday. Baller
I
says
know you saw it in your heart. You're like, I didn't know. I forgot about those Hold that day.
since you're eight, it's just 246. All of them.
I'm hating how it's.
I mean,
Yeah, I thought about
I'm like touching it, and it's like a little damp at the same time.
But I mean, I was.
That wasn't writing
something down. That wasn't me like actually.
I think like 15 minutes.
what's wrong with that last?
He usually goes one here.
Trust me, I know.
Ha.
Feeling any other vacations coming on?
Not Sunday. I'll be missing. No, I'll be leaving early, so I'll still be here.
How many does? A lot. Wow.
Well, I don't get this.
Sounds like a
This doesn't
very-
make sense.
I swear, if I didn't do it right,
Okay, that.
I definitely didn't do it right. I just do it Wednesday.
All right, now Alasia was absent, Annabelle was absent.
Nakaya was absent.
Oh, yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Nadia was absent.
Yeah, I was at home crying over paper. Yeah, that paper is trash, let me tell you. I brought in racism on something that I never said about racism.
What?
That's what I thought this was, but obviously it's not. That it's only, it says.
Completely cute.
Not my problem. Not today. So, ask me for the lights.
Yeah, that's what. 3 eyes.
3 eyes.
Oh, see, that's like cut off. It didn't get that. Oh, so I only know that part. So I just like.
So wait, the odds equal 2?
Yes. All right, moving on.
What is peanut equal dots?
So, how many electrons do we get when we added this up?
26.
All right, 26.
Yeah. I don't even know what we're talking about right now.
Oh my god.
Okay.
I hate that the video was glitchy, but I cannot control the server.
Well, now you just gotta bear with us today.
If it's because that was so rude.
I'm gonna bear with you all the way till you go home tonight and watch the video.
Very biased.
All right, so those of you who are talking, stop. So ASI3, I'm assuming based on what Annabelle said, y'all know how to add up valence electrons because the video covered that part.
Yeah.
All right, AS only has one atom, so it's the central atom. So you have AS, there are 3 I's. Draw the 3 I's around the AS. It does not matter if there's one here, here, or here, as long as there are 3 I's. Now, the lines represent how many electrons? 2.
Oh.
So out of our 26 electrons, that takes care of 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26. Every atom gets how many? 8. It's the octet rule. All atoms want 8 electrons. Okay? Now, check to see if everybody has 8. All right? The step 1 said we had to have 26. Do we have 26?
Yes.
And does everybody have 8? For those of you who are absent, those are the 2 things we're checking. Do we have the 26 we added up? And does everybody have 8? If we've done both of those things, we will not put in a double or a triple bond. Okay? We don't start with double or triple bonds. So as long as we've met those two things, we're not going to put in a double or triple bond. Do we need a double or triple bond here? No. Okay? This one is finished. All right? Number 2, CBr4. How many electrons did you get when you added it up? 32. So what's my central atom?
So how do we get that number?
How do you get what?
The 30.
How many C's are there?
4.
One.
Oh, so it's just
One.
It's 4 BRs. Sorry.
Okay. How many BRs are there?
4.
Okay. 1 and 4. How many outer shell electrons or valence electrons does carbon have? How many does bromine have?
So where do we get that stuff? Oh, so that's just like a normal.
Yeah, that's the easiest.
1 electron, 2 electrons, 3 electrons, 4 electrons,
So
5
what
electrons, 6 electrons, 7 electrons, 8 electrons. Carbon is here. Chlorine is, we're doing bromine. Bromine is there. So if you're there, you have 4. If you're there, you have 7.
What group is?
Yes. So if we multiply, we have 4. We have 28. We add it up. We have 32.
Got it.
How many carbons do I have? So it's going to be the central atom. How many bromines am I drawing around?
4.
Are my people who are absent good with that now?
Yeah.
Fabulous. All right, we're drawing 32 electrons. 2, 4, 6, 8. All right, there's 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. Again, the 2 rules. Did we draw in 32 electrons and we added up in step 1? And does everyone have 8? If the answers are yes to both of those, do we need a double or triple bond?
No.
The answer is no. We don't need one here either. Everybody has 8, and we used our 32 electrons. So there's no need to put in a double or triple bond. Okay? All right, the last one that I gave you, H2CO. Now, this one has hydrogen in it. What did we learn about hydrogen on Friday? All right, hydrogen is an exception. All right, so my absent people, it only gets 2 electrons. Okay? It will not get 8. That means no dots, no double, no triple bonds. It will only have a single line on it. Okay? It's the one exception we learned on Friday. Annabelle, did you hear me? Since you're not paying any attention over there.
The exception we have on Friday.
Now, how many hydrogens are there? How many carbons? How many oxygens? Times 1 electron, times 4 electrons, times 6 electrons. So we have 2, 4, 6, for a grand total of 12. Who's my central atom?
What do we see or up?
Does it matter?
Yes, it does matter.
C because it's closest to the left on the periodic table.
When you have 2 that are single atoms, you have to look on the periodic table who's farther left. So you're O.
2 places.
Who's farther left? C
C.
or O?
But just by 2 places.
Doesn't matter. It's farther left. Okay? So, how many H's am I drawing?
2.
How many oxygens am I drawing? Now, we know we've got 2, 4, 6 of my 12 electrons covered there. Okay? I only have 6 to go. What did I just tell you about hydrogen? It only gets 2. Okay? What did I say about hydrogen never ever getting? Dots. It never gets dots. Is it ever going to have a double or triple bond?
No.
So that single line that hydrogen gets is all it ever gets. So all my dots are going on C and O. Hydrogen's done. Doesn't get anything else. Okay? So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. So, did I use 12 electrons? And does everybody have its 8?
No.
The answer is no. I used the 12, but I don't have 8 on everybody. H is good. C is good. Is O good? How many does O have? This is what we talked about on Friday. C has 8 and O only has 6. C has to do what? It's got to share. It's got to help the O out. So the C is going to take 2 of its electrons that it has, and it's going to share with the O. So it's going to take 2 off, and it's going to stick them right here, and it's going to share with the O. That way, it still has its 2 electrons, but now O has them also. So do I still have 12? 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. I still have 12. 2, 4, 6, 8. 2, 4, 6, 8. Everybody has 8. Questions?
No.
Any questions?
This is just so irrelevant.
Most of my course is irrelevant.
I was trying to watch the video from Thursday, and like we write so much notes.
Yep.
It's miserable.
You'll be thrilled today. I'm going to give you a handout. It's got notes on it.
Chemistry in high school is like the basis for like any other chemistry course you'll take.
Mm-hmm.
So it just builds upon that, or do you like?
Depends. I mean, if you have to take a low-level chemistry class in college, like for beginning nursing, then it's going to be very similar. If you're going into a weeder chemistry class for a chemistry major of physics, it will only cover like the first half of first semester.
Miss Wall, so if you want to like I've always thought about marine biology since I was little. Like, what do you take like chemistry with that?
Probably 2,
Like,
maybe 4, but at least 2. All right, here are the answers to your homework. Now, you're going to use these as your examples today for your practice. So those of you who have no homework, have no practice questions for the geometries and the polarities. Well, I'm not going to give you time to draw, which is the reason you have no practice today.
Oh, I was like, first of all, why is number 1?
so this is the homework.
It's not in front. Yes, but I just checked.
Oh, no, I made
So this
I
is
just
the,
exempted you. You don't have to make it up.
so
Oh,
we
that's
can
it.
just do it if we want to.
Yep, we're not doing it all.
I barely even had fun. I would give you because you can't get 8 or 2.
And you don't get very long to check this before I move on.
No, we have to look at all the stuff to make sure it's right.
I'm not giving you very long to look fast.
Number 6. I think it's
What is this for?
Huh?
Wait, so these
Did you really just ask me what that's for?
I mean, you said homework, but like.
These are the right answers.
Oh, I see. They're not like, okay. I just see the 4 next to that 1. I was like, why? Okay, so we offer a test like 8, like, so the working thing. I know you said.
I told you boron is an exception. It only has 3 bonds.
Mental breakdown.
There's a lot of exceptions in periodic table. I'm sure this is right.
Did you check them?
Okay.
You got them all right?
And explain the sulfur.
Boron
Why
has
can it
3
have
bonds
six?
with the same number of electrons. I was like, you added.
Yes. For the guy back there.
No, they were gonna hang it out. I went around a few times.
I have an extra somewhere. Where would I have an extra?
Yeah.
I don't have one.
People were looking boys.
All right. Next page.
Next page is.
So can I participate tomorrow?
Oh, I used to run with it. Why do you have brackets over in no?
Because it's a polyatomic ion.
No.
has an oxidation number.
Locally.
All polyatomic ions have to have brackets.
And equal signs?
Where do you see brackets?
Number 4,
She said equal sign.
they're not equal signs, they're brackets.
No, it's number 4. It says equal. Oh, you put, it's 2 lines, it's 2 lines.
It's a double bond. It's not equal signs.
Well, I did it.
That's like 8. That's a double bond. It's not equal signs.
Just the crap. If I make it there.
I thought I was doing the wrong one.
I'm so pressed for this.
Are we getting them right?
Yeah.
That's good. You gotta be able to do them on the quiz tomorrow.
I'll look at it.
Yep.
Quick what?
This is only 33% so far on the quiz.
Are you serious?
Yep. The other 2/3 come from today.
Oh, why?
Because I can.
I wanted this, she said no too.
And the other half.
Everybody wants a robot. She looked real life. I just can't be over.
Alright, we got them? Which ones do we need to talk about? I'm not working all 14. So you better choose.
Mom, do you have any food?
Yeah.
I'm big.
Alright, what's number 4 asked for?
NO3.
Alright, NO3 with a -1.
Yeah.
Alright, how many N's are there? Alright, so how many electrons do we have? 5, it's in group 15. O has 3 times how many outer shell electrons?
6.
So we have 5, we have what's 3 times 6? So when you add that up, you have, what do we learn about an odd number of electrons? So those of you who are talking, stop. Alright, what I tell you about an odd number of electrons for those people who are absent? Are we going to have an odd number in this class? No, we're not going to have an odd number. So for those people who are absent and writing furiously on the homework that I exempted, are you listening?
Yeah.
We're not going to have an odd number. So what did we learn the -1 means? It means you've gained an electron, so you're going to add 1, which means you have 24 electrons. This is a polyatomic ion, so what do you know we're going to draw around it at the end? Bracket. Who's my central atom? How many O's am I drawing?
3.
2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. So I've drawn in my 24. Does everyone have 8?
No.
Who does not have 8?
And
The N only has 6. Okay? So if N only has 6, pick one of the O's. It doesn't matter which one because they all have 8, right? So make one of the O's share. So if I take just this one and I put a line there, I took these electrons and I just moved them down there. Now they're sharing. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, 2, 4, 6, 8, and 2, 4, 6, 8. All 4 atoms have 8. I still have 24 electrons. Draw brackets and write -1. So I know I gained 1 electron.
Why is B an exception for 3? What is that about?
Boron only has 3 electrons. So, or 3 bonds. Boron is the other exception I told you have to know. Boron has 6 electrons only. So when you add it up, B is in group number 13, right? So it has 3 electrons. Chlorine is in group 17, so it has 7 electrons. So you get 3, 21 for a total of 24. So boron has 3 chlorines drawn around it. And you have 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16, 18, 20, 22, 24. The only thing that makes boron different than any other atom is you're just not going to force it to have 8. It just only has 6. Okay? It just doesn't get knocked out. The only 2 exceptions you guys have to know are boron and hydrogen. I won't make you know any others. Now, with the let me qualify that with something like, what number is SBR6?
6.
Okay. But these, I think, just sort of slap you in the face. I don't think you can get these wrong. So we have what's going to be called expanded octets today. So when you add that up, it has 48 electrons. So how are you going to draw 6 bromines? What did I tell you to do with these on Friday?
Circle.
Yeah, they just, all 6 bromines, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, are going to come off of sulfur.
It looks like a sun.
Yep, sort of does. So when you draw on all the electrons to get to the magic number of 48 that you added up,
That was
what do you notice about sulfur? Does it have 8? No, it has more than 8. Because in order to get all the bromines on sulfur, can you just have 8?
no.
No. So we don't ever have a line. Everything always goes around the central atom. So you're never going to struggle to figure out how to get them on there. They always go around. It just has more than 8.
So that
Roger that.
And there's 2 expanded octets. I'm going to
Y'all
make y'all
done this
learn.
or is it just?
Get ready to talk about it. Anything else on the homework you want me to talk about?
Where do you stay?
I mean, I'm Tuesday and Wednesday. Yes, I know the test is Friday and I'm not here on Thursday, but I'll be here Tuesday and Wednesday.
Well, you're not gonna be here.
You're not here on Thursday?
I will be here in class. I'm going to be here after school.
Oh, okay. I just need to make up 3 questions.
I'll be here Tuesday and Wednesday. The test is, I can't remember, 78 or 79 questions.
The test is this Friday? Yeah, this Friday.
It's a multiple choice.
You have to be here through lunch to get your prom tickets.
That's not what I was talking
Oh,
about.
okay. Everybody always looks at me like, is the day of the prom, Ms. Wall? I'm not coming that
I
day.
don't even understand like why you don't even be here.
I don't either, but people always look at me like I'm crazy when I
Because if
say
you're
that.
trying to get your nails done the day before prom, it seems kind of stressful to me because what if you don't like them, you can get them fixed.
I don't know, I'm just saying.
You get it done the day of.
All right.
I don't know by the time.
Right, you finna just have to dip because it's gonna be a long run.
Right.
3 minutes a day.
Thursday.
All right. So let's talk about.
Like what if you
Like, that's fine.
Thursday?
And if you don't like it, I don't like my nails.
That's what I got right there.
Well, Thursday we can done.
Before I leave,
Not
before I leave, you give me the
your dishes on Thursday night. So.
Where you getting up to?
Right. Like get fixed.
I love this.
Yep. All right. For those of you who like titles, you see what's here? That's your title. That's part of your notes. To make life easier for you, I photocopied that just so you had less to write today. That and to expedite my slow
Does this have
poke
anything to
writers.
do with the lower structure?
Now, the stuff that's on that piece of paper, the vast majority of it you have to have memorized by tomorrow. It's on your quiz. I'm going to show you how to learn faster. I'm going to walk through it. It's not that much to learn. You have 7 geometries to know by tomorrow for the quiz. Okay? I told you the other day you were going to have
This
to know.
wall. Nope. For lower structures. What's the title? Do I think?
It's on the board. It's number 2. I already pointed to
Do
it.
you have enough room to finish lower structures on this in the back of that paper?
I have no idea.
Miss Wall, you write this, write this.
Where is my pencil?
Okay, it's gonna be trash today. I went to Chick-fil-A 4 times on Saturday. I don't know. I think I was tired, so I just kept like going back. I don't know.
Now, we're going to talk about geometries today to match the Lewis structures that we drew on Friday. Now, Vesper theory is a fancy name for geometries. So, what does Vesper stand for?
Valence shell, ampere, rule.
Very good. I was worried about you over there.
I know. I'm still looking at mom.
Okay. So, valence means outer shell, right? We should remember from another science class that repulsion means to do what? Push away. Electrons are both negative. Do two negatives attract one another or push away?
We don't know.
Two negative, what?
They push away.
Yeah, they do. Why are you going over there? We don't know. Yeah, you do know.
Miss Well, I didn't know.
I didn't know.
Well, I mean, you
Think of them as magnets. Two north poles on magnets attract or repel.
people. They
I didn't
they-
know that
they
if you're
repel
on
each
one
other.
side, they feel like they won't go together.
That's right. Opposites attract, same repels. Okay? So if you have two protons or two electrons, they'll repel. If you have a proton and an electron, because they're opposites, they'll attract. Does that make sense? Okay. So if you have two electrons, they're both negative, they don't like each other. Alright? So they try to get as far from one another as possible.
Were you looking up a student's info?
Hmm?
Were you looking up a student's info?
Was I?
Yeah. Your bike is today.
Oh, no, I need to write down parent context.
Yeah.
I had to beg him for my failures. For my failures.
Let me tell you, what fun. Miss Pendergrass still wanted me to go eat with her.
I literally got signed out.
Still
In her class, and they called me on the for her, and she even said, okay. That same day, she calls my mom and tells her I did something
Sometimes, you know, we just forget.
She wrote me up for it, so then I had to go and tell her, I was like, you can go check, I mean, it's not that hard, you know, just go to front office.
Generally speaking, before I do that, I do check in the office, just to make sure that I'm not doing that in error, because I don't like to look like an idiot.
And I told her, oh, she's crazy, and now she believes me. So,
Yeah, okay, now we'll come up the ring.
Alright, are we caught up?
no.
Too bad.
Wait,
Alright, so we look at the important parts of this. Alright, so electrons do what to each other? They repel. They're going to push apart and try to get as far from one another as possible. Now, most of this stuff is on the first page. The rest of it's on the note page I gave you. All right, so due to Adam's arrangement, each compound, you have plenty of time to write that thing. Come on. All right, due to the Adam's arrangement, each compound can be identified by a geometry. All right? These geometries are determined by where the atoms are. Okay, so where they are
What comes after arrangement?
and where the lone pairs of electrons are. What are you huffing and puffing about over there? Not too bad. Suck it up.
Is that what you would tell your students, like, when you first started teaching?
No, I've been told I've mellowed a lot since I started teaching.
I can see that.
You what?
Mellowed.
Oh my god.
Get out.
Yeah, if you can imagine that, I'm much more mellow.
We didn't need that. It was like.
I grade easier.
Okay, babe.
It's a lot of things different.
You're not trying to talk to me.
Wait, hold on.
All right,
Wait, I'm not done.
hurry up.
No, credits the whole paragraph.
Y'all need to write faster. We're never gonna get finished. Y'all are not gonna know what you're doing.
He's in the right class. I'm on art and where.
I am on these, they're on slides.
You gotta know what you're doing.
I'm so
And I don't guess you have to know what you're doing. That's the goal. About now, we there?
Guess what? I need to
All right. So, to find the geometry, these are the two things we have to know. And so these are the parts you're going to have to memorize on that chart I just handed you. Okay? So to find the geometry, these are the two things you have to memorize. All right? You have to know the number of atoms on each central atom. How many atoms come off the central atom? And you have to know the number of lone pairs on each central atom. That's the information you have to know.
Determine a geometry. I thought that was a lesson. Yeah.
I'm going to show you if you will actually be quiet and listen.
Good today.
I know that's difficult for you, but I need you to try.
Good today.
I did.
Linear. So it matters where we put it?
No, you can still draw it wrong as long as you can find the number of atoms and the number of lone pairs.
Isn't that the same thing as counting things at a time?
Oh,
Why are you making it seem like it's hard to
That's why you did.
I know. The hard part is memorizing the geometry now.
Oh.
As long as you can draw the Lewis structure, you just have to be able to count.
We have to.
And then memorize the name.
So like it's not.
First of all, why are you trying to come at me again? Leave me alone.
All right, we caught up? All right. Faith, you there?
Yep.
Rosanna and Nylacia are my three I usually need to check on. Are we all there? I'm not worried about you. All right. So, if we look at CO2, and I'm not showing you how to draw the Lewis structure at this point, it's draw on your paper. Now, how do we come up with the geometry? So let's say you drew this on the quiz tomorrow. All right? What is the central atom?
C.
Okay. How many atoms are sticking off the C? Two. All right, so on your paper, it says the number of atoms on the central atom would be what? Two. How many lone pairs are on the central atom? Zero. Okay? Lone pairs are what again? The dots. Okay? So I have lone pairs out here on O, but is O the central atom? So we don't care about those lone pairs. We're only interested in the lone pairs on the C. Okay? So on carbon, there are how many lone pairs? None. Okay? So what geometry would this be? Think math class. All right? If I held my pen there and put a ruler there, what would that be?
Whoa.
It's because I get too close. All right? What geometry would that be? It's a line. All right? So a line is linear. Okay? Now, I don't know if I drew this on the paper. Did I talk about bond angles on the paper? Okay. So the bond angle, you should remember from geometry class, is 180 degrees. Now, you will need to know some bond angles on the test, so make sure you know the bond angles.
180 degrees.
Tomorrow, no. Test Friday, yes. Now, you will only need to know the geometry names for tomorrow. Now,
But do we have to be able
What they don't ask us on final exam. My answer's about to be out of the park.
now, below that, it tells you what if you have one that has no central atom. If you have no central atom,
It says no central atom.
if you have no central atom, what's the geometry?
Nothing.
Linear.
It's linear.
It's just linear. So like for that question on homework, bro, I said it looked like the sun. It'd be a circle.
Go no.
Okay, thank you for girl no.
3, 6. What is that?
There's no central atom. It's just two atoms side by side.
And it would just count for 2.
It would just be two atoms. It would be something like Cl2 And so if it's just CL2, now, those of you who are sitting at the counters and can't be quiet, I'm going to put you back in regular chairs. The rest of you just be quiet. But those of you sitting at the counters, every time I start to talk, y'all are still talking. Stop. Now, if it's a diatomic or even just something that's just two atoms side by side that is a different element, like something like HCl, if it's just two atoms that are side by side, it has no central atom, it's going to look something like this. It's still going to be linear, okay? Because it's just side by side. There's no other way to bend that atom in some other shape or form. So it's going to be linear, okay? Now, what if you have something, and I'm just drawing it. You do not have to draw it in any particular shape because most of you will have no idea what it looks like.
You right?
All right? Now, if it looks something like this, to help you learn the name.
Triangle.
All right? It's in a triangle shape. All right? Now, it lies flat in the plane of the board. All right? So, we call it, and you can use a triangle to abbreviate. We name it triangular planar because it lies flat in the plane of the board. This is one of the few molecules that we have that's flat. All right? So, it's triangular planar. It's bond angle.
So like that thing you have in your hand, it
Yep.
goes sideways. Or
Okay.
that one.
You go, because it's flat, it can be sideways or it can be this way.
Look, no, that's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about goes like this
Ken?
to match the
Sure.
one.
All right, what's the bond angle?
I don't know.
Are they all equal?
No.
Yes.
Hold it up.
No, they're not. Yes, they are. Yes.
Is it the same?
Yeah.
So what is it? It's 120. Okay? Y'all got some geometry in your math classes?
No.
Okay.
I don't
understand.
You said that on the paper.
It says it on the paper?
Yes.
You wrote it. You thought it.
I didn't think mine does it have it? It doesn't say. Yeah, I guess it does say it on there.
Yeah, look at it.
So can you
So that's not a test.
It is
What
on the
happened?
test. It's not on the quiz. All right, so how many atoms do I have? And how many lone pairs? 0. There's no lone pairs on X. Okay, so 3 atoms and no lone pairs makes a triangular planar. Now, those are the only ones that are flat. Everything else is not flat. Okay, so the next one, I've drawn 2 ways on there. The way you guys are going to draw it is something like this. And there's nothing wrong with it. That's the way I expect y'all to draw it. Okay? If you draw it that way, you guys are going to tell me the bond angle is what? 90. Its bond angle is not 90 because it's not flat. It actually looks like this. Okay? Okay? Is that flat? No, it's not. Okay? Is it an acute or an obtuse angle? Obtuse. Okay, so we know that.
I know what that is.
That's good.
I sure didn't know what that was.
It's
Wait,
greater than what to be obtuse?
Obtuse is like this.
It's greater than 90. Okay?
Obtuse is like this. Let's see your pen.
I'm happy y'all know because
So this is a 90. That's a 90.
Yeah.
Yep.
This is obtuse.
Okay.
Like that.
Yeah.
And then what's the other one?
Acute.
it's like
Right?
Okay. You don't have to draw it very small. It can just be like this.
Oh,
It just has to be less
So
than
this-
90 degrees.
this is the obtuse.
Yes. They're all of these the same. All right. This one is.
What are you pulling out? Why do you have these?
This is the same.
This is acute.
Are they all the same? That's what I just had.
This is acute, right?
Look at her. Here, go get it.
Are they all the same?
No.
Are they obtuse or acute?
Acute. Little. No, they're the same. They're the same. No, they're obtuse. They're obtuse.
What?
They're obtuse.
They're bigger than 90.
Because look.
bigger than 180.
And then this is obtuse. And then where's your 90? And
90 would be the black and red over there. Yeah.
I have
So-
three questions.
this is your
Yep. Hang on.
How do you know if it's A flat, what angle it is, and if we all draw it differently, aren't we gonna get different geometry names?
Nope.
this
Well,
one.
and now-
This is 90.
I'm about to take a big
Is this a cube?
Right. I might actually have to do test
This looks kind of like a 90 though.
That is,
A cube.
that would be a cube.
This is 90.
It's,
But it's like
Looks
kind of
sort of 90.
slanted.
now, let me answer Joyce's question.
Do you not have a cute one?
No,
What is
not at
this
the
one?
moment. That one, depending on what you got. Put it down at the moment. It
Hold
goes
on,
down.
look.
Dude, it's not a toy. Go sit down. It's not a top.
It looks like it. It looks
Now, the picture that's on the left side represents spatially what this shows and what this shows. Okay? Now, you're not going to know to draw it this way. You're going to draw it this way. There's absolutely nothing wrong with you drawing it that way. Now, but if I ask you the bond angle and you tell me it's 90, it's wrong. You have to know the bond angle's 109.5 degrees. That's right answer. Now, to answer Joyce's question, how are you going to know that? Because you're going to say to me, Joyce, how many chlorines are coming off the carbon?
4.
You're going to say, oh, there are 4 carbons. There are how many lone pairs on the carbon? None. So if there are 4 and none, its geometry has to be what? Does it say on the sheet? Tetrahedral. Okay? So, you know that it's tetrahedral. You know it's not linear. You know it's not triangular planar. You know it's tetrahedral. Okay? You're going to know it's not any of those other geometries in a minute because we're going to talk about those others. It's 4 and 0.
So this is the stuff
Okay.
we memorize.
That's how you know the geometry. That's why I told you you had to know. We go to the bottom of the notes here. That you had to know the number of atoms on the central atom and the number of lone pairs.
Wait. Okay,
Those are the 2 things you have to know to find the geometry.
We have to memorize triangular, planar, tetrahedral, triangular, biopyramidal.
You got to know all the geometries.
So then,
What if it's a multiple choice test?
Half of it's true response.
You're kidding.
What?
no, he's not.
Ran it off today.
Really?
Not kidding.
Miss Wall, so like
Yeah.
the bond angle is gonna be the same for every linear and every triangle.
Every triangular planar has what bond angle? And every linear is what? And every tetrahedral is what?
109. So it's always gonna be the same.
Always the same.
You guys, you can identify what type it is. You know. Okay.
Correct.
Do you gotta know both though?
Yeah.
Both linears
All right. So the last 2 that have no lone pairs. All right. These are what we call expanded octets. Okay.
That's not triangle biopyramidal.
So if we have one that has an X with 3 Y's, all right. Notice that I drew them in a what shape again? A triangular shape. And then they have a Y that comes out of the top and the bottom. And I'm going to show you why it's called the name it's called in just a second. And it has 5 Y's and no lone pairs. Now, if you look at it, make Cecilia help me here. All right, you've got a triangular shape. If you connect it, it's a triangle, right? If I attach one to the top,
Bro.
what do I get if I connect that?
A pyramid.
Yeah. And if I connect this one, what do I have here? A pyramid. So bi means what in math class? 2. So, thank you, ma'am. So it's called triangular. And again, I'm going to abbreviate. Triangular, bi meaning 2, pyramids.
I'm so glad I did not miss this day because
Okay, triangular bipyramidal. That's where the name comes from. Because you have 2 pyramids and a triangle. All right, the last one that has no lone pairs is the one that was on your homework that had S and it had 6 BRs sticking off of it. This one is one, as long as you can remember the name, it is one that I think slaps everybody and nobody gets wrong unless you just can't remember the name, which is octahedral.
It
Now,
sucks that it's octa because that makes you want to think 8.
well, it's got to do with the quadrants and not the number of atoms. Okay? It has 6 and 0, and it's called octahedral. And again, it has to do with 8 quadrants, not 8 atoms. Okay? Now, if you look at this, you can see the bond angles here are all what?
90.
They're all 90 degrees. Every single one of them. Now, if I had sheets of paper that I could actually bisect this molecule with, on the top there are 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. And on the bottom there are 1, 2, 3, 4 quadrants. So there are 4 quadrants and 4 quadrants, which makes the molecule have 8 quadrants, which is why it's called octahedral. Okay? So it's about quadrants. It's not about atoms. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yes, sir.
I said, just imagine a cube.
Yes.
What is
exactly.
there?
Imagine a cube.
Wait,
Two by two cubes.
If you're saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, that's still 8.
That's right. That's why it's called octahedral, because it's about the sectors or it's quadrants.
But that sucks because there's 6.
I know.
So why?
I'm not in charge of names.
No, but
Okay? So the remaining 3 geometries are the ones that have the lone pairs. Okay? So, which one did I do first? Bent, linear, which one? Bent. All right, so there's 2 bents. There's the one that has 1 lone pair. And there's the one that has 2 lone pairs. Now, does it matter which one you label it as which? The answer is no. It's not like it's bent 1 and bent 2. It's just bent. Okay? It looks like this. All right? The thing about bent is the electrons that are by themselves that are lone pairs push these bonds down. Okay? Now, you can draw it like this. You know, I've told y'all before I tend to be very linear, so I tend to draw it that way. You can draw it like this. And there's nothing wrong with that either. Okay? You can draw it either way. You choose. I don't care. But you're never going to have to tell me whether it's bent 1 or bent 2. Now, I want you to look at that and tell me the difference between bent and linear.
Linear straight and bent goes sideways.
and they don't
And
have
the lone pair.
lone pairs.
Oh.
Okay.
Yeah.
Bent has lone pairs and linear does not. Okay? So if you look at linear's geometry, linear has no lone pairs. Bent has lone pairs.
What do you mean?
Look back at
It says 1 and 2. Are you talking about on the central?
yes. If you go back to the central atom, all right, linear has no lone pairs. Okay? So when you look at the central atom, there's no lone pairs here. It's 2
But it says
atoms, 0 lone pairs. All right? When you draw the Lewis structure for bent, it has 2 atoms, but it has what on the central atom?
lone pair.
Has lone pairs. That's how you will know it's bent versus linear.
Okay, got it. I thought
Okay.
you were talking about bent. No, it said as 1.
Okay? Now, the last geometry is one like this. It looks like that. What's the only difference? It's got how many pyramids? 1. It's still a triangle, so you got your triangle shape, but it only has how many pyramids? So we call it triangular pyramidal. Now, if you want to sound really smart and fancy, you can say pyramidal. Triangular pyramidal. All right, and that's 3 and 1. So the difference between this one and planar is what? What's the difference between this one and Triangular planar, what'd you say, no? All right, it sticks up, but it has a lone pair. Triangular planar, if we go back, triangular planar has no lone pairs.
Wait, what?
Triangular planar
Yeah.
has no lone pairs. It's 3 and 0. Okay, 3 and 0. Triangular pyramidal has a lone pair.
I am.
So let's say for a second you drew this. Okay? Let's say this is the molecule you drew.
That's triangular.
Hold on. All right? How do you decide if it's planar or pyramidal? First of all, you got to include the triangular. All right? You look at it and you go, okay, 1, 2, 3. I have 3 atoms.
That's triangular.
Do I have any lone pairs?
Yes. No, because there's none on S.
There's none on S. You got 3 and 0. So what geometry would we be?
Planar.
I'm triangular planar. Now, you have to include both parts because there's a square planar I didn't teach you. So you have to write triangular planar. You can abbreviate with the triangle if you like, but you got to write both parts. And don't write triangle P like I'm going to interpret, okay? Because that could be triangular pyramidal.
That could be a specific heat. Right?
Oh my God. Sit down.
The triangle CP.
No.
Sit down.
No. All right, you got your homework?
No.
You have 14 examples. Go through and label their geometries,
Oh.
okay?
You want the rest of this? Oh,
Find their geometries. And then we're going to figure out how to determine if they're polar or non-polar. Yeah, I know. Feel that way often.
But you didn't give us our angles for the bend.
They're on the bent would be less than 109.5.
Okay, wait.
I'm not going to make you know those.
Okay.
If I didn't label them on the sheet, I'm not going to make you know them.
And what about the triangular bipyramidal?
Not going to make you know those either. Oh, triangular bipyramidal, yes, 90 and 120.
It's gonna be both or it's gonna be either or?
So we have.
Both. So you look at here, the triangle part would be your 120.
And
And then here, that would be what? That'd be your 90.
So you have.
Yeah.
Okay.
All right, I need homework.
So we just say whether it's linear.
Yeah, linear, triangle, pyramidal, bent, octahedral, what is it? Sure. You already do it. Geometry. Tell me what they are. Huh? Hey, you know what you're doing? On your homework, tell me what geometry is. No central atoms. Which one would it have to be? I don't think you're deciding. Keep going. You put up that.
I know. I was paying attention the whole time. I was just saying you listen because I don't understand anyway.
The first one linear,
Then go on to number 3.
and then I know 6 is octahedral. That's about it.
That's great.
Miss Wall.
You got some issues, but that's all you got going for you.
Well, here's the other
Yes.
thing. When I was copying all of it down, I kind of just wrote dots.
Random.
Yeah.
This is all a different number.
Yeah, let me guess.
What if it's number 1?
Linear.
This is all different, right?
Just tell me forever. Oh, yeah.
So 1 or 2,
Yeah.
1 and 2 is linear.
Yeah, I'm interested in that.
Yes.
Okay.
Linear, because it's just 2 atoms. No central atoms.
So we are.
Yes. There's just 2 atoms. It's just.
Yeah, I'm just happy y'all understand because.
Correct.
Or just to the.
Linear.
So what now? Is that your question? Okay.
What's the third one?
Questions?
I'd say.
But, I know N is going to say less than central atom.
Yep.
And what other difference?
How many O's and anything else?
What if there's a brackets over?
Yeah, what kind of brackets does that make any difference?
None?
Billy Ray.
Yes. Hopefully Billy said my favorite. Yeah. Okay. It was gonna be tough.
Yep.
Okay, try that, please.
Okay.
I always.
I think I did. Let me know what you think.
The number of atoms on the central atom are like.
The number of atoms are the line.
Highly don't recommend the Danimal strawberry banana.
You get regular strawberries,
Strawberry
bananas.
Strawberry banana it is. I mean, I still drank all mine, but.
It's so good.
This one, what is that?
Or the Annabelle the dog biscuit.
No, I like this one, and I'm gonna get one. Get that banana taste.
What do they taste like?
We're good. I like it. I tried.
Oh, you want to do small?
Small.
You need like 2 gallons.
First you don't like these, now you don't like
It's
them.
really like dog.
That's actually something that dog biscuit.
Well, they is like this. What is it, strawberry?
I don't feed it to the dog.
You
What
put
kind
it
of dog
in
you
there.
have? What kind of dog you have?
She's sweet and dumb.
You ever see that? You ever see that dog on Daddy's home? My mom's trying to get me.
Orland?
Crank that dog.
Oh,
On Daddy's home.
okay. Oh, look at it. You're at the beach?
Nah, there's something in there.
I don't know.
Oh, let's see.
Oh, you're fucking
I have a chihuahua who has big eyes.
Are there a chocolate lab?
No.
I'm not even on.
I got a chocolate lab that is mixed something so it's miniature and it's perfect, but he's so mean to me, barely trained him and he doesn't like me. And he, whenever he says get hurt, no matter where I am, he goes and finds me in the cat. Not fun. Your dog? My dog. The one I got from my dog.
Alright, let's look at what you came up with. Alright, number 1.
Linear.
Everybody okay with linear?
Yeah.
No central atom. Number 2.
Linear.
Number 3.
Triangular planar.
Number 4. Triangular planar.
Oh my God.
How many O's?
Too many.
There's 3 O's
And there's 0 lone
and there's 0 lone pairs. So it's triangular planar. Alright. What's 5? There's 2 O's
There's 2 lone
and
pairs.
there's 2 lone pairs. Remember, everything's about the central atom. The central atom is what in number 5? Cl. Now, if you drew it wrong,
I did.
you may or may not be able to get the right answer. I will tell you the way the quiz and the test work. If you drew it wrong and your geometry is right, I'll give you credit for the geometry. But if you drew it wrong, you may or may not be able to get the right geometry. Okay?
That biscuit was so dry.
Go get some water. Stop giving my pretzel a hard time.
I'm trying to tell you, it's stuck in my teeth.
It's so good.
It's like dust.
Shut up over there. So 2 and 2 makes us bent. That's how we came up with it.
And then like
Wow.
3 different type of rocks or something.
That's
Which type is that?
I hadn't had earth science since I was in 7th grade. I'm 49. I might be.
She got it right. It's sedimentary.
Sedentary.
What is igneous one of them?
Yep,
What's the other? Metamorphic?
yep.
Get out of the dog business. All right. Everybody okay with 1 through 6?
Yeah. Wait, no, all of them right.
All right. What's 7?
Triangle, pyramidal.
All right. 8.
I didn't get there.
Bent. 9.
What is it?
Tetrahedral is 4 and 0. 10. 11.
Triangle, pyramidal.
12. 13. And 14. Questions?
I didn't actually really.
Now, what's the hard part for tomorrow?
Memorizing it.
Memorizing which ones they are. Tell somebody who cares. I promise you it's not me.
This wall's not upside.
Oh.
Miss Wall, do you like seafood?
Yep.
I didn't get no.
Is this polar?
All right. For those of you who like titles, we're on number 3. So, for those of you who like titles, title it number 3 up there on the board. All right. So now we're going to do the last column of our quiz tomorrow.
Me and my dad.
I'm gonna note to this. It's a lot. Miss.
1 board and then example.
Okay, good.
It's number tomorrow, like college.
Yes.
Relations.
It's a chart.
Okay.
That sounds big.
Let's go.
All right. So, we've got to review a little bit so that we don't confuse everybody. So, last week, we learned how to tell bond type. Correct?
Yeah. Is this polarity?
Yep. So, last week, we learned how to tell bonds. Some of us did very well on that quiz. Most of us did. We got some people with some glitches. All right? You checked your grades, you know who you are and who you're not. So, bonds can either be ionic, covalent, or metallic. But we're not going to worry about metallic today. Okay, we're just going to take them out of the mix. Okay, so bonds can either be ionic, polar covalent, or non-polar covalent for today. So, we determined the type of bond using the electronegativity scale, right? So, on the quiz,
I love how you type it the way you talk. We determined the type of bond using electronegativity scale.
The what? Electronegativity. Yeah, so she said something else.
I knew what you meant. Okay, remember doing that last week on the quiz?
That's all we have to do. So I have to take it tomorrow, but that's basically all we need to know.
Oh, wait, we had a quiz Friday?
Yes, dear.
I knew I was missing something. Miss Wall, can I come in like lunch or something?
No, you gotta
I
come
thought you were
tomorrow.
just going to miss fashion merchandising like usual.
I know, that's what I was asking. Can I come and do it then?
Sure, what the heck?
You got a board?
What the heck?
If I have a 4th, yeah, I'd really rather you not come 4th.
Yes, Miss Wall, yeah, you can come.
3rd's a much better.
Not mine, man. Stop it now.
Isn't the Nordic?
You gonna eat before you
Yep.
have any way attention.
Yeah. We gotta just have to show
Or,
us.
yeah, a couple of 4.
What about cake?
It's not your life.
But she's not watching TV.
Say hop off. You your education. You need to live.
So what would we have done with CCL4?
Just hope for God. Watch this.
You'd have looked up 2.5 minus 3.0. You'd have gotten 0.5 and you'd have told me what? It's polar covalent.
You just about died.
Okay?
I made sure it was tight.
Is everybody okay with that?
Hold on, give me a
Yes.
second to process.
Yeah.
2.5 to 3.
It's absolutely.
Mine's three.
It's out mine
Yeah,
is.
yeah,
That was C, that was CL. Everybody back on the same page?
Wait,
Yeah, I am
wait,
trying
hold
to-
on. Where do we get 2.5 and 3?
Somebody tell Annabelle where we got the numbers.
Negativity chart. It's not.
I need one of those.
You wanna hear that, Dave?
No.
Okay.
Which one? Keep eating that.
That's what y'all. I was watching the video, and that's what paper y'all were talking about.
Yes.
Miss Wall.
I know.
Miss Wald, I'd like to ask you a question.
There you go, one paper for Annabelle. Anybody else not here on Thursday who need one? Okay, yes.
So like the quiz, from Friday,
Mhm.
we just do this chart and then it's us telling what it is.
Yeah.
Well, I can do that right now.
Well, good, you're not doing it right now.
Hey,
Alright,
hey.
Hey, this.
Do we get this on the test?
you get it on Fridays, you don't get it on the exam,
Why?
unless they include it as part of the question.
Oh, so they don't include it.
Correct.
You won't.
I will, but they won't. If the state wants you to use that, they will include it as part of the exam question.
If they don't.
If they don't, then they won't
Remember,
ask you to
there's
do it.
another way to tell it.
There is, like where it is on the periodic table. So now, let's consider the whole molecule. Okay? And I forgot to subscript the CL4. That should be a lowercase form. Alright? So, what happens to its polarity if we consider all four bonds?
It would
Alright.
be
There's only 3.
There's four bonds.
Nothing.
CL4, baby.
Oh,
Four CLs coming off the C.
Come on.
got it.
Should be more out.
Alright? So, there's a couple different ways we can talk about the polarity of a molecule. Alright? I think the easiest way is to look at it in terms of it being non-polar. Okay? So, in order for a molecule to be non-polar, it has to meet two requirements. Okay? If it does not meet both, it's automatically what? It's automatically polar. Okay? It has to meet both requirements to be non-polar. Okay? Everybody with me on that? All right, you got to meet both to be non-polar. So if you don't meet both, you are polar. I'm sorry.
Her voice is like Miss Love's.
I like
Is she
that.
here today?
Yeah.
Do we have to review test?
Oh, I hope
Right, I
not
wonder like
I
how.
haven't read chapter 4, 3,
I haven't
5.
studied.
Me.
Anybody do that?
Girl,
no.
I feel like we get back. You study the other test.
All right. So number one,
How to get open heart surgery.
all right. So number one, all the dipoles are equal. That means the differences in electronegativities are the same. So,
What are dipoles?
I just said that.
What is-
The
what's in
differences in
the-
electronegativities are the same. So, for example, we just said CCl4, right?
Yeah.
So, we looked up carbon and chlorine. So, what did we have? We had 2.5 and 3.0. So, what was our difference in electronegativity? 0.5. So, our dipole is what? 0.5. So if all of the differences are the same, that would be the first requirement. I'm going to show you a shortcut so you don't have to add up or subtract all the dipoles. Okay?
Girl, you were me.
Now, the second thing. All the dipoles have to pull in equal and opposite directions. Now, How are you going to know if they pull in equal and opposite directions? Well, all the bond angles are the same, or equal. Well, how are you going to know if all the bond angles are equal? What did I put there? You know they're in equal and opposite directions, and the bond angles are equal if there are no what?
No lone pairs.
If there are no lone pairs. Okay?
So. Wait, this isn't the test for the test grade.
It is the test you can test correction.
Let's go.
But like I told you, a test correction is worth 0.6. So you got to do a lot of them to make a difference.
That's okay.
Wait, how many questions are on the test?
79.
I'm gonna be
So if
doing
you miss
48
30
questions.
questions at 0.6, you need a lot.
Okay, let's do this.
So in order to get, say if you get like an 85, how many questions would you miss?
She better do it. How many questions? So 79 questions. Say you get a 60 out of 79.
60 out of 79 be pretty doggone good.
That's a 75. 60 out of 79 is 75 or 76.
That can't be right.
No, it's not.
If it's worth 0.6.
And how many did you say it is?
I'm just saying, like, say if you get like an 85 or something, how many do you miss?
Yep, you're right. 76. I
Yep.
would have thought that would have been a better score. Guess not.
Nope.
All right, so, yep, apparently that sucks.
And then
All right,
to get like to 85, you have to make it 100.
nope, it's already made, ran off.
So you want an 85. So you have to get
Like, you missed like 12 or like 12.
I gave you 19 that you
to
missed.
get a 95, you have to get 75, right?
All right, so if we look at
Hold on, real quick.
CCl4, so I drew the molecule, okay? So I'm gonna ask you to find for me on the quiz tomorrow the molecule.
To get an
Polarity.
86, you'd have to get 68 correct.
Okay, but shush.
Okay?
Karen, you were.
Now, in order to find molecule polarity, you're checking to see are the dipoles equal and are there no lone pairs? Okay? Now, these are the two rules that we just wrote down. Now, if you meet both of them, what did we say? If I go back. If we meet both of them, we are what? Non-polar. If we default on either one, we're automatically what? They're all covalent. We haven't switched to ionic or metallic.
Polar.
They're automatically polar. Okay, tomorrow we're going to start with ionic. We'll finish metallic. We'll talk about the bond properties, and then we'll be ready to test. All right. So when we look at this molecule, now we can go through, get our electronegativity sheets, and we can subtract their electronegativities. What can you tell me about all of these bonds? Are they the same two elements? Okay? If same elements, the dipoles are equal. Okay? You don't have to subtract them. You can if it makes you happy, but they're going to equal if they're the same two elements. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay. If you look up carbon, carbon is 2.5. Chlorine is 3.0. If you subtract 2.5 from 3.0, you get 0.5. 2.5 from 3.0 is 0.5. 0.5. 0.5. Okay? They are the same electronegativity difference because you have the same two elements on all four bonds. So anytime you have the same elements, when you subtract, you will get the same difference. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Okay? So that's why I said if the elements are the same, the dipoles are going to be equal. So, number one, the dipoles are equal. Now, if you have no lone pairs, they're going to pull in equal and opposite directions because the bond angles are equal. Do I have any lone pairs on carbon? We're good to go. Okay? So, what kind of molecule is this? It is a non-polar molecule. You with me?
As for molecule polarity,
You answer those two questions. Now, if it says bond type, then you subtract using the electronegativities. Okay? That's why when we did these notes, I made sure I talked about bonds and molecules. Okay? Whether it asks for the bond or the molecule. If it says bond in the question, you want to subtract. If it says molecule, you got to use those two rules. If you're not sure, ask me, I'll tell you.
so bond subtract molecule.
On the quiz tomorrow, I'm asking for the molecule. All right, so what if we have water? Okay. All right. All right, tell me about the dipoles. Are they the same or different?
Same.
What about the lone pairs?
So it makes it polar.
Okay.
It's just like, what's hard is when you're explaining it until we like actually do it.
Right, yeah. Ooh, pretty colors. Miss Wall, before we leave this class, can we pull up like a coloring book thingy on your smartboard and then let me color it with all the pretty colors? Maybe at the end of the year.
Don't know. All right. Well, what do we have? Are the dipoles equal?
No.
Why are the dipoles not equal?
Because it's not the same.
They're not the same elements. That's NCl, that's NH. What can you tell me?
It's polar.
Okay? Everybody there? Bonds aren't the same. It's automatically polar. We don't even need to go any further. Bonds are different. It's polar. All right, I want to show you one exception. I don't think you would see this on the exam, but I want to show it to you anyways. Mainly because you'd have to have an electronegativity chart to find this. Okay? All right, pH 3.
This is non-polar?
It's non-polar.
Why?
Can anybody tell me why?
Because the H's can only have two. H's can't have anything. I mean, they can have two, but like, they can't have anything surrounded.
Yes, they can.
Because the P has to take what the H can.
You need your electronegativity sheet to figure it out. I will tell you that.
Yeah,
You can't do it without your electronegativity. What's the same?
Put what?
All right.
Oh, they're both.
They're both 2.1. So when you subtract, what do you get? There's no dipole. All right. When you subtract, you have to have a difference. Okay. And there's no difference here. When you subtract, you get 0. All right. So this is a non-polar covalent bond of 0. You have no dipole. There's nothing to cancel. It's just 0. So this is an exception. I would not think you would see one like this on the exam, simply because unless they gave you the electronegativity table, you would have no way to know the answer to this, okay? Because you'd have no way to figure out that those two elements have the same electronegativity, okay? Now, you still got no more candy? Okay. Now, what are you going to do for 1, 2, and 14? Try is not the answer I was hoping for, people. Now, Do those questions have a central atom?
No.
So can you do what we did here with those two things? What are you going to do when there's no central atom?
Not
You
answer.
tell me, Miss Roy.
Just call it something.
It's just one bond. It's one bond. So what are you going to do to figure out if it's polar or non-polar? Correct. You're just going to subtract like it's a plain old bond. You're going to go all the way back here and you're going to find bond type. Okay? But the rest of them that have a central atom, you're going to do the molecule type. But the ones that are just one bond, you'll subtract and see where they fall on the scale. So like I2 and HBr and O2, you're going to do that way. But all the ones that have a central atom, you're going to do the new way. They have to have a central atom to do the molecule type. So 1, 2, and 14, you're doing this way. Because there's no central atom.
So you said there's no central atom, it's a bond.
That's right.
Not a molecule.
It's not a molecule because you don't have a central atom to look at. And then we'll talk homework.
Who goes on prom this year? Who's all going prom this year?
I know.
Cheyenne, Faith,
No, I take it back. Like I said, who's not going?
who is going? Madison, Alasia.
Ceci.
Sarah, are you going? Jayla's going. Alondra,
I don't know my class.
are you going?
Sorry.
It's sad.
Nadia,
Come with me.
What?
are you going?
No.
Why are you asking?
Alondra,
I just want to see who I'm going to see
It's like,
there.
you know, to do your work.
See, they're getting all fancy.
Yeah, it will do this before you start asking a bunch of questions.
Let's be serious.
Do we really know what's happening?
Come on, buy me some answers quickly.
Find me them dog biscuits. Hold on, I'll like.
Annabelle,
See if
how about this?
How about this?
You do this
What?
and
See if I can catch it. And we'll go.
Get over there and do my homework.
Well, you need to throw things in the trash. Man. You ain't got no juicy
Throw it.
snacks or something. All your snacks is dry and crunchy.
Throw it. I'll see if I can catch it.
Like, you know, Slim Jims is juicy, right? You ever tried this? You know, you do Crackers is not the most.
See if I can catch it.
I'm sending this picture to your mother. You're doing the chemistry class today.
Why would you do that? What? Hey, Mom cares. I don't have any.
Go ahead and start
And then how come you're failing and you're not?
I'm gonna be like, Mom, I have 3 missing quiz grades. And she's gonna be like, you don't need to be having fun in class. I'm like, what?
Well, maybe.
Go buy me some answers over there.
Why would you send that to my mom? Be a total buzzkill. God.
No, I deleted the draft. Go do my work.
You should start touching her with that.
No, Frank. No. He don't even know what school to do. He like whenever he gets those Monday reports, and so like there was this one time he knows that now. So like I have terrible grades in all my classes because I have like 3 zeros in all of them, and Mom had to seriously explain to him that like these aren't our report cards; they're just what we have right now. Oh my God! One night he lost it on us because we had missed the Friday. It was not okay. He doesn't get school because he didn't do well in school, so he wants us to do really well in school. It doesn't make any sense because I got your genes, Dad. I didn't get mine, so it's really aggravating. So technically, Miss Mom,
All we have to do is look at it's the same atom and then
this.
pick a locate.
Oh
And we don't have to subtract anything.
Nope.
See, this makes sense. I just don't feel like.
Oh.
You better come with
They're supposed to be the same.
What's wrong with your friend? I'm just thinking about it.
Them boys are stupid.
Like, she's about to lose it.
It's just annoying because they always like in person, they ask us, what are we doing Saturday, what's fun Saturday? Literally Maryland's made itinerary and stuff like that, taking our time to figure it out for us. And then like Lamb and Lucas, they're like, what are we doing, what's the plan? I have to do this and this, and they don't bring the test, so they think it's annoying.
She was just like, there's so much there. I'm like,
What's it mean by that?
Yeah, same thing. For all the bombs.
So like for nice, you have PRT like that.
That's not the same.
So it's automatic polar.
Okay, so like, okay.
Oh, in the
So the same for like, like, so basically that makes for like,
we only want the only 5 points and all like pictures or friends on there. So funny pictures.
That's still like a 2 hours.
How long is the hair? It's like
2 hours. It's 2 dots under the beat, or like on the beat.
If you're.
It just takes a long time when you have a big group though.
That's a long.
Like it took us about an hour and a half to get everything last year. Because like you're gonna walk
What's I2?
with everyone.
I2, the rest of you who are talking, stop. Linda, I don't know why you moved over there other than to socialize. Move back. All right, what's I2? Non-polar. When you subtract I from I, you get what? Zero. So it's non-polar. HBr. That's polar. So when you subtract H and Br, you get what? Point what? 0.7. 0.7 makes it polar.
Do we
Now,
have
you do not have to say covalent here because you've already determined that it's a covalent molecule. So you're just telling me polar or non-polar. We're not determining bond type. You're determining molecule type. You can say covalent, I won't take off. But you only have to really say polar or non-polar.
Do we have to memorize that number line, or is that gonna be?
Yes, you have to memorize that number line. All right, number 3. Non-polar. All the bonds are the same. There are no lone pairs. Number 4. Non-polar. Number 5. Polar. Number 6. Non-polar. That's my shoe, sorry. Number 7. Number 7 is polar. All the bonds are the same, but there's what on P? There's a lone pair, so that's why it's non-polar. Number 8. Polar. Number 9. Polar. All the bonds are not the same. You have 3 that are SCLs, or SICLs, and 1 that's SIBR. Number 10. Polar. Number 11. Polar. Number 12. Polar. 13. Non-polar. Number 14. Non-polar. If you can do those, you should be able to do the quiz tomorrow. Now, let's talk homework.
I don't do it.
Should be one for Allie in that robot. Leave it out so I can give you instructions.
Okay, so
But I need to add. Well, I added, but I need to make sure you see it in case I check. It might not. I'm also going to eliminate something on the back.
and so we have a worksheet and a study from the quiz.
All right. So if you look on the front, the first column says bond type. What do I want you to do in the column that says bond type? So what do you have to do is what I'm asking. You got to subtract. So you got to label polar covalent, non-polar covalent, or ion.
Right.
Okay? There you would have to write the word covalent. Or you can write PC or APC. All right? In the middle, I've added something. It says Lewis structure. What did I write beside the word Lewis structure? Geometry. So if I check and you don't write the geometry, I'm going to take at least 25 points off your homework grade. All right?
You're checking it.
I didn't say I was. I'm just saying I might. I have been known to in the past. Some years I don't. All right? Molecule type. What am I asking for there? I'm asking for polar or non-polar. I've already said molecule type, so you know that it's covalent, so you don't have to say covalent at the end of that. You have to fill out the chart front and back. The back side where it says short answer, you don't have to do that. Just do the chart, please. Okay?
Wait. So we write in polar and non-polar twice. You said we don't use the chart. From my back, so this is polar.
The first column you're figuring out bond type. The second column you're figuring out polar or molecule type. They won't necessarily match. The bond can be polar or non-polar. The molecule can be different from the bond. They If you ask me that, that means you don't understand what we did today.
I kind of.
Okay?
It's okay though. It's all right. We'll figure that out. No, I'm